When X-Men 97 came out, I did a very in-depth look at every X-Men minifigure in my collection, whether it was official minifigures and of course all the customs that I have from all the different companies. If you want to see that video, definitely take a look in the corner. Tons of characters have come out for the comics, especially, but when it comes to the Fox movie minifigures, I don't have as many minifigures overall compared to the comics. I wanted to keep these all separate to save on runtime in that main X-Men collection video, but I also thought it'd be very fun to package all of these together as a video going over every Fox X-Men Lego minifigure in my collection for Deadpool and Wolverine, since that's coming out. Just perfect timing, and a lot of these minifigures I actually haven't done videos for on the channel, so it'll be nice to kind of retread, go back, and get some of the back catalog into a video. But just to keep it simple, let's start with the chronological order based on movie, and we'll go to the X-Men 1 minifigures, being the cross-check Logan, as well as Wolverine in the X-Men suit. Starting with the jacketed version that he first appeared in the movie, I made an error during the review for this. I noticed that one of the orange stripes on the sleeve didn't have a black outline like the other ones. I guess that is an accurate movie detail where the patch part was actually ripped off, so it's supposed to be like that. It still looks weird, honestly. I kind of wish they did just do the black outline still to make it look consistent, and I feel like that would have made this figure a little bit better, but I guess, they're going for accuracy, so that's why that happened. Other than that, the legs are amazing. Jacket print is very accurate, lots of detailing. Really like the likeness on both sides of the face for these minifigures, and of course the molded hairpiece is perfect for the early Wolverine movie character. The other mold on the minifigure being the claws, not necessarily my favorite part. I do like the Jocko one better that we'll look at in a bit, but it's a solid likeness and a great Wolverine movie minifigure. Let's move to the X-Men suit one, which I will say is my favorite out of the two, just because the suit looks super clean. The printing on this is immaculate, with all the different detailing, wrapping around the torso, around the legs, and the arms are printed with really great detailing. I think the black mold for the claws works better, which ends up just being a part that goes around the wrist and kind of shapes around the hand. So it adds some extra bulk to the outside of the arm, which is fine. When it's black, it's not as noticeable, and the color just matches a little bit better. Back to the face, like I said, both of the prints are very spot on for Hugh Jackman, and it's just a double-sided head. So these are the two different faces for the minifigures. They have the same head, same hair. And to me, this is kind of the perfect decked out leather X-Men suit for Wolverine. Big fan of this minifigure, of course the other one too. I think this was a great release. You could buy them separately or together, so they were released at the same time but aren't necessarily a two-pack, but I am glad that I got both of them at the same time. Let's move on to the next movie. Of course, Wolverine got some solo movies, as everybody knows, and one of the more notorious ones would be X-Men Origins Wolverine. I don't have a Hugh Jackman minifigure from this movie, but I do have this Deadpool here, which ended up actually being one of the minifigures I picked up most recently. I have reviewed this. It is one of my favorite minifigures just for how weird it is to get this in 2020, whatever. And getting to the Merc with no mouth, in this case, this version of the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool isn't very comic accurate, obviously, but representing the version from the movie, spot on. The subtle muscle lines look great, the weird lines going across his body. I especially liked both head prints that came with it. You saw earlier the laser effect that you could buy separately, but fits with the character. If you want to see the full minifigure review with all those parts, check out the video in the corner, but I was excited to get this. I actually really loved X-Men Origins Wolverine and really piqued my interest for the character of Deadpool and got me into collecting Deadpool comic books, so it was a gateway drug for me. I watched it again recently, actually. I don't hate the movie as much as some people probably do, and glad to have some sort of representation of that movie in Lego form, and that would be this minifigure here. Let's move on to the Deadpool minifigures from that movie. Jumping forward a couple of years in terms of movie releases, we have Deadpool from Deadpool 1, released in 2016. It is interesting, so this is the dark red version, which actually they reprinted for Deadpool 2 when that came out, and the original one was on light red. So take a look at that one first. but just wanted to show off the card design that is included, since it is a bit different than what they do now. And the red one I got doesn't have the card, so we'll just go off this dark red version, but I'm assuming it would be the exact same. You can see kind of dated look here, not very modern or anything. Lots of colors, which is very different than a lot of custom companies now, and we'll see these again when we get to Deadpool 2 with the figures that came out with that movie. And it is interesting to see them release the exact same minifigure again, just in a different color. So it was nice of them to do that if you missed out on the original, and let's go ahead and check it out. The only main difference for the red suit here is that it also came with 2 brick arms pistols in black. There are no holsters or anything to hold those, but if you have the swords in the sheath, scabbard, wherever you want to call it, then you just have the guns in the hands. I think this is a great look. It's what I also did for my Deadpool 2, Deadpool 1, like new version. I bought 2 pistols for that. They weren't included, but he definitely needs them since it's a very big part of his character, especially if you're looking at the Deadpool 1 version when he's on the bridge. Definitely need the pistols, since that is one of the biggest action set pieces for that movie. Doing a full review here, since I haven't taken a look at the figure yet in the channel. The black sleeves, you can see there is a little bit of red peeking through, but for the most part the black does go over the entire shoulder, which is nice since that is how it looks in the movie. This version of the minifigure released with a brown sheath, which was originally used in Prince of Persia. There is now a black version. I'll have to buy another version of the black one to throw on here. I already did that for the dark red version we'll take a look at. But brown, not accurate. Black is the perfect color for the character in the movie, since he also has the black sort of neck part that goes around his neck, mask, whatever that is. I'll just take the guns off quick, and the swords, just to get a full look at the complete printing on the minifigure unobstructed. The legs just have a simple front print for the little bit of black that hangs down, some straps, which is where the holsters would be if the side of the leg was printed, and some knee pads on the front too, which this just matches the design from the legs basically for the comic Deadpool minifigure that came out in 2012. That's what they were going for there. And that's just kind of their design philosophy at the time. What would Lego do? So that is why this minifigure is the way that it is. It does feature some back torso printing with the, I believe, sword strap going around. Mask also has back printing as well, since it has the sort of panel lines where the different parts of the mask connect. So it's good to see those represented here. And looking at this minifigure, this honestly could work very well for a comic book Deadpool versus, you know, a movie version. It is good movie representation too. The accuracy is pretty spot on. The buckle is probably my favorite design there. And you also get the little knives in his pec area. And this is set after the bridge scene, since it has the 2 different bullet holes there that I believe he gets in that scene in the movie. It does kind of fit in the timeline towards the end of the Deadpool 1 movie. I think one of the best things that they knocked out of the park right away was the mask with the lights, maybe so you can see that without the glare. But the subtle white lines that kind of give it the shaping from the movie are great, since it is very 3D in shape and has depth and all that, and they represented that well with the dark gray going around the eyes. This first version and the dark red one only have the one expression, which is the downside for it, where he doesn't have all the different eye shapes that came out with the newest version of the Deadpool movie suit. But hey, for what we got at the time, this was a pretty good minifigure, especially since it was 2016. Custom minifigures have come a long way, and I'm glad they upgraded this one. Let's get to that dark red suit too, which, like I said, the exact same minifigure, but this version did not come with the pistols, and I upgraded it to have the black sheath for the swords. So it looks a lot better, a lot more accurate, and you can see right here what the 2 look like next to each other. And I could see why they preferred the red version for the newest version that they put out. I feel like if there was an in-between dark red and red, that would be the color I would want, but this does look a little dark. I guess it could fit for the Deadpool 2 sort of end of the movie suit after he gets blasted by Russell. He ends up having that kind of darker X-Force looking suit, which could be this darker red, but this was the version I had for a long time. I bought this one in like 2021, one of the first custom Lego minifigures I bought again after I got into collecting, since I wanted a movie Deadpool. And of course, they released the newest version, which is steps above this one in quality and just amount of printing. This was a good version to have for a while. Let's move on to another Deadpool character. I wasn't able to find a specific movie for this minifigure, but I'm going to put it with Deadpool 1 since I feel like Colossus is a lot more crucial to the plot of that movie. It's by Dragon Bricks and features a nice movie version of Colossus on the back. Typical card, and this is 57 out of 80. And I have not reviewed this one in an individual video, so we'll take a close look at this minifigure here. This Colossus definitely has positives and negatives. Obviously, it is just minifigure scale, so he doesn't have that extra height that the character has in the movie. Same with like the bulk. Just has a normal torso. It is a very simple design, which will fit very well with the Phoenix Customs Deadpool minifigures we just looked at, since they aren't overly printed and detailed. They'll fit next together perfectly. Features some arm printing with the band going across, muscle lines under those. Hairpiece, I do like the shaping for the most part from the front and the back. Kind of feels like a mullet, which I guess for the original 70s look might not be awful, but for the movie I feel like it was a lot higher up on the back of his head. The striping on the back looks nice, where it continues the sort of line work that it's kind of comic based, but of course, you know, with all those Fox movies, they did not want to give characters comic suits. And it is interesting, back of the legs aren't printed at all, other than the hip, where it kind of continues the belt design around with the X in the belt buckle area there, which I do think that is a great design. And it does have some metallic silver on there too. And the silver on the head and the arms looks pretty consistent with other Colossus minifigures I have in my collection. So it'll fit in with all of those. It looks like there's even some side leg printing, so that is nice to see. At least they have that, where the sort of boot design continues around, and some of those straps, I guess. Some of those subtle design choices that they don't necessarily need, but they put on, are appreciated. It does add a little bit more value to the character. And the anger expression here looks pretty good. I feel like the cheekbones are a little close, so it kind of makes him look like an alien instead of, you know, a big bulky guy. If those were a little more subtle or spread out to the further edges of the head a little bit more, I think that would have been a better design. Doesn't look awful, but that is just something I'm noticing. I do like the dark sort of circles around the eyes. And of course, on the other side of this minifigure, we have another expression, so I'll just switch that around too. And again, it just kind of shows my complaint where his cheekbones are just a little off, make him seem a little bit too alien-esque, and probably throw off the look of this minifigure for me. But glad to have a movie Colossus in some form or fashion. Does the job, getting that across. And it's too bad I don't have a Negasonic Teenage Warhead to go with Deadpool and Colossus here. I guess that would be on my list of movie figures I need, but this does the job for Colossus. Let's move on to another Wolverine movie. And after those Deadpool minifigures, we're back to Wolverine with the minifigures I got from Logan, both of these being printed by Jaka Brick as a 2-pack. I have reviewed these, but let's quick go over them again. Just starting with X-23. It is a great minifigure. You get some really nice civilian parts, honestly, which is probably the best part of the minifigure. It does kind of have the Jaka curse, though, with their female hair pieces, which is always going to be my biggest complaint, is that it's like impossible to get them off. Way too tight, and you risk breaking them when you're taking them off or putting them back on. And of course, printing on the head also is kind of at risk when you're messing around with those. So you set the face that you want, and probably not going to be able to change around too much. Really like the jacket, really like the legs. Obviously, there's no printing in between the legs since they don't move, but the wraparound for these boots on these legs here are great. You also get 2 different molded hands with the claws, and those are great too. They're a little loose, at least on my copy, I'm assuming. Well, I guess this side is fine. It's just the one over here, which is too bad. It would be fine if it was consistent both ways, but I guess with only one loose, that kind of is a little more upsetting. But put in the case, not going to be an issue. If you want to see the full review of this and the Wolverine we'll look at too, check out the video in the corner. And this Wolverine minifigure here was my first Hugh Jackman minifigure. The claws here are probably my favorite molded version of this part that I've seen. They just are that perfect scale. They're stiff, so they're not like crooked in any way. And again, just some nice civilian parts here, basically. Obviously, the head is going to be a little bit more accurate to the actor, but you just get a nice shirt here and some nice pants. But obviously, put it all together. Great old man Logan, I guess I would say. That's not necessarily 100% what they were going for in the movie, but hey, that is the basis for the story. If they're taking one comic book line that they did base it on, just have some extra faces, and kind of that's it for accessories. Again, like I said, I have the other video reviewing this completely, and we'll go to some more Deadpool 2 minifigures. Of course, after Logan, we have Deadpool 2 with Phoenix Customs putting out basically a character for every main member of the X-Force here. Of course, we already looked at this version of Deadpool, but more recently they released an even better version of this character, which was one of my top minifigures of last year, the all-new Phoenix Customs Deadpool minifigure. Really, I don't know how anyone would ever top that design. Great figure, but these two here, again, haven't reviewed them on the channel yet. We'll go very in-depth in Cable and Domino, and right off the bat, you can see the difference in card design that I was talking about earlier, where this one is a lot more simple, less polished. These cards here feature the sort of code words that a lot of these custom minifigure companies use to avoid copyright. So Cyborg is Cable, and then Femme Fatale is Domino. They have a nice metallic sheen on them. Cable has a yellow eye to differentiate that from the regular design. And on the back, same sort of thing, where it's just Phoenix Customs, where to follow them. Very excited about these minifigures. They're some of my favorite customs that I do have, especially this one, and let's check them out. If you like Cable and Domino, didn't age as well as probably some of Phoenix Customs' other minifigures from the era. You know, there are a decent amount of details. Nothing stands out as awful, but you get to like the legs, nothing on the side of the legs, nothing on the back of the legs. So that definitely is going to throw it off when you're looking at the newest Deadpool minifigure that did come out. Hairpiece as well. It is what was available at the time. He tried to use a lot more official minifigure parts, didn't use as many molds. So you get this afro piece in brown, which came out in a CMF, and is based off of the collectible minifigure Clown from Series 1, I think, or whatever series that Clown came out with, the red version of this. Back of the torso, you get some nice strap design. Arms, great lace printing with some of the sort of dark tan. I try to remember what color that would be, but that looks great. It's a good effect there. On the front, she has like a neck strap sort of thing, and other straps and a belt going out around her torso, obviously. And the subtle dark blue along the legs looks nice and is very unique. Guess I don't remember seeing that in her suit from the movie, but I guess I didn't pay attention too much. Like I said, though, the main thing that kind of jumps out is like, ooh, to me, is the hairpiece side of the legs not being printed. But we can fix the hairpiece. Let's throw in some different combos for that. Kind of messed around with that last year. Like the Monica Rambeau hairpiece here, which is decent. It fits the volume that her hair has a lot more in the movie. It is black, which isn't probably the most accurate. It should really be dark brown, but I don't hate it. That is one of the options I looked at. Another hairpiece that I considered was this one. It ends up being very tall and skinny tall. I feel like her hair pops out to the sides a lot more, so it's not perfect. It is dark brown though, so I do like the coloring, but I don't know. This isn't what I went with. I have one more option that I really liked, which is this poofier hair here that I believe fits the volume of her hair and how far it sticks out. It is reddish brown, where it should be darker. I guess I could paint it maybe, but it helps that her skin tone is a little bit lighter, so it is still darker than that. I guess face print wise too, the sort of white spot around her eye looks good, and she also has that very light brown eye that contrasts the black one. I also tossed on the two accessories that I bought for her, being the two Brick Arms Uzis to complete the look for her accessory wise, and I think these are kind of necessary to fill in the blanks. Otherwise she just has empty hands, and that feels weird. I'm going to say the same thing for Cable, but I also made a gun for him. And with that being said, let's jump to Cable. Overall, I'd say for him, this minifigure is an upgrade compared to Domino, since he has more printing, gets a custom molded hairpiece with his undercut or whatever you would call that. There's a little bit of printing of gray on the top there. This would be a great hairpiece for multiple Brad Pitt characters if you wanted to make those. You He also has a nice custom cape that is a very nice vinyl, almost raincoat material, which would be fitting for what he had in the movie. But that's covering up a lot of the printing, so I'll just take that off quick. And that way we can see the back of the torso with the straps continuing around, and all the fine line work there is very good. Back of the legs aren't going to be printed, but the side of the legs are, which is good to see. And makes it look a lot more consistent with the details actually carrying over all the way around the outside of the minifigure, unlike Domino, but doesn't have back of the leg printing, which is again fitting for the Phoenix Customs design philosophy for the time. But the arm printing looks great with the metallic silver. Of course, you got the wires and cables going towards the sleeve there. A little bit of a black cut across the sleeve too. I would say that the sleeve printing here is very good. I believe it might actually be a brown arm, since that flesh is definitely printed on. Same goes, I guess, for the silver. So yeah, I guess it would make sense it's a reddish brown arm instead of being flesh. So I was going to say that's a compliment there compared to the Deadpool one where the black doesn't go all the way to the side of the torso. So that makes sense, I guess. Face print looks great with the robotic eye. It is interesting that him and Domino both have that eye, that different color. I guess that kind of ties the characters together a little bit more. Facial hair looks good with the stubble. He has some cuts on his face too, which are consistent with the version of the movie. And the hairpiece, taking that off too, and you can see the sort of cuts on his eye, which are a lot more prominent in his comic book design, but are still included here for the movie. Obviously, you get to a smaller scale like this, it's a lot harder to see those and tell them apart from the other detailing in the eye. Color-wise, I'm not sure if I love the olive for the legs, but I guess that would probably be the accurate color for the time, what was available. It doesn't look awful. I do like the knee pads too, which also continue around, but we didn't get a teddy bear printing anywhere on here, which is too bad. Obviously, be a little grim, but it would be accurate. And you can see the two different parts of his belt there with the magazines in it. It is a slightly different green, or just a little bit brighter, so that's kind of nice to see. It's not all the same olive color. That's cool to see, and like I said, just like Domino, no accessories here, but I did make a gun for him, which is brick built, and I feel like is pretty accurate. I got a scope here that actually has a hole that goes through the whole thing. Included the dial that you do to change the powers of the gun, like in the movie, where he turned it to 11 at one point. And I believe it also had a wood stock, so that's why I included those parts. And it's nice and big, which is very typical for Cable. He always has the huge guns and all the pouches. So you add this to this minifigure, basically makes it perfect since all the pouches were already on the printing. I think this is a good representation. I'll be interested to see if he comes back for Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it seems like he will. There's no leaks for it, but who knows. I did like the character design for him, and I thought overall Deadpool 2 had a good movie story. We got one more minifigure left, and it is one of my favorites, and that is, of course, my top minifigure for 2023, being the Phoenix Customs Deadpool here that came out last year. Printing-wise, amazing. Accessory-wise, amazing. You get the scabbard sheath piece that is magnetic. I have noticed over time it does seem to kind of slide down, which is unfortunate. I wish it was consistently up where it's supposed to be. And that might just be because the magnet that I have for my copy is a little loose on the inside of the torso. I guess I could glue it, but I really don't want to. Threw in the guns, those weren't included originally. And if you want to see all the different head prints and accessories, check out the video in the corner again. Just because this is one of those minifigures that takes forever to cover, just because there are so many details and so much to love about it. But this is pretty much peak Phoenix Customs for me. Arm printing looks great. Same with the leg printing, where it has all the small details like the knife on the side of the leg. And if you can track this down for a good price, I would always recommend this to anybody. It is the perfect Deadpool minifigure. I guess they're putting out the new one for Deadpool 3, which will be neck and neck with it. It'll be pretty much the same, but this is one of my favorites. Let's get to some comparisons and the final verdict. I think we're in one of the best eras for custom minifigures just because of the amount of detailing companies are able to get, molded accessories, and all that. And just goes to make the perfect version of the character, which is important for me. Like Domino and Cable here, nobody's really done them better, but they're several years old. They're missing some of the current detailing, which is too bad, but looking at them now, you know what, they're not awful. They are better than what Lego would do for sure, and still do fit in with the newest version of Deadpool, I would say. Same goes for Colossus, where it ends up being a simpler design, but honestly, that is just what his suit looks like in the movie, so it's not like he's missing any crazy detailing other than, you know, the bulk for his character. Moving down the line, you know what, same goes for these Jocka minifigures here, where, you know, the characters aren't super distinct or anything, but you put them together, you get the claws on there. Great, you get that recognition. Definitely say these cross-check Wolverines are very iconic in their subject matter and do a great job representing those. Really can't complain, and these are definitely the two figures that I would say that I'm glad that came out now instead of like 5 years ago, because they just wouldn't have been able to do it as well back then versus the resources available now. Same goes for the X-Men Origins Wolverine Deadpool. I know other companies have done these too, but just not as well. And the line of Deadpools here, where Phoenix Custom started and where they ended, the stretch there is just crazy. To think that minifigures can look like this now, basically small Hot Toys action figures, which I went over in the review for that minifigure originally. And you just see the color differences here. I do think the red pops and just makes him look a lot better. Obviously, the comic book suits are always that very bright red. So I would say that would be an iconic look for him if you're going off of the original source material. But I'm loving all these minifigures. That's why I bought them. That's why I collect. I get the figures I really want, really, and I skip the ones that I'm not super interested in. The only Fox X-Men character that I've seen have a figure so far is Cyclops from Lifebrick. I know Crosscheck was teasing them, but it's not released yet. I don't know about that one. Maybe. I'm just not super interested in James Mars and Cyclops. But any Deadpool variants that come out or other side characters, I'll definitely pick them up to complete this collection even more. Let me know, though, out of all these, which one is your favorite, or if you have any in your collection, let me know in the comments. If you want to see more Lego X-Men or custom Lego X-Men videos, check out all the other videos on my channel. I've been Brick Radiop, and I'll see you in the next video.